And hey everyone, it's Evan Kirstel on this Friday edition. I'm here with one of my favorite followers at Dell Technologies. Today we have Aaron from Dell Edge, Dell Technologies. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Evan? Glad to be here
I'm
today.
really good for a Friday. Great to have a local edition, a fellow Massachusetts resident,
That's right.
and someone who's been at Dell for quite some time. Not that I'm calling you old, but
Uh,
you've been at Dell for over a couple of decades from EMC onwards. Tell us about that journey before we dive into the latest and greatest.
yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, I've been with EMC and then now Dell after the acquisition for I think it'll be 23 years next week. Variety of different roles, but I think having been in this part of the industry for 23 years, I've been able to kind of entered EMC back in the day as they were making a transition from sort of a mainframe company into more of an open systems company. I was part of a lot of the early virtualization and cloud computing conversations back in the mid 2000 to
Wow.
2010 or 12. And now I'm kind of been moved into marketing over the last couple of years. And I've enjoyed my career as sort of started in the tail end of the mainframe years, went into the open systems, moved into the cloud, and is now kind of going into the edge. And, as we start to move back out and disaggregate. So I've kind of seen a bunch of different contraction expansion trends, and it's fun to be part of that as the especially in the telecom industry as we go through this process of disaggregation. It's a process that's repeated itself over throughout the years, and I've been able to have sort of a front seat view of it as that's occurred.
That's awesome. I love this industry. It's 30 years for myself in the telco space, and it's definitely now is the most exciting time. And even at Dell, you traditionally have been known for stuff like storage and servers and networking and cloud and all kinds of products. But you formed a solutions business unit around the telecom space to help operators meet a whole variety of new challenges. Tell us more about that and how you found this brave new world at Dell.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, when Dell and EMC were born in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, and was kind of sort of cut our teeth on the trends of open, moving from sort of proprietary, sort of vertically integrated systems into much more open infrastructure environments, and we've been leaders in that space. In fact, for those of you who remember the 90s, Dell and EMC were both about 98,000% stock growth back in the days. They were sort of the big growth ones back in the 90s on that wave of open and the shift towards those types of systems. So, in recent years, we've been seeing what's been happening in the telecom space. So telecom is going through that type of a trend right now, starting to disaggregate those vertically integrated stacks and leveraging more open approaches to really increase the innovation that's happening throughout the market, whether that's at the software layer with the both containerized and virtualized software has been growing rapidly. You see an increase in the number of sort of virtual layers, whether it's from Wind River or VMware or Red Hat, and the abstraction layers coming in, and you're now seeing a whole bunch of new hardware vendors come in, and Dell feels like our history of helping other industries transform as they went open, whether that's finance and pharmaceuticals and healthcare and others. We're looking to take the experience we've had there and bring that into the world of telecom and help them through their transformation that they're undergoing right now.
Oh, that's fascinating. And telecom traditionally has been a pretty slow, boring industry over the years, but that's changed for a lot of good reasons. And you've picked at Dell, it seems, quite a few sweet spots where you can really drive transformation and change, whether it's at the edge of the network and massive edge infrastructure push, private wireless, private 5G, which is the hot new thing for the enterprise, and industrial IoT, bringing on this new fourth industrial revolution. Tell us about that, because those are some of the fastest growing segments in the market, and you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't say that telecom is slow. I mean, it's amazing how
I'm
much things
slow.
have changed.
I'm confessing, self-confessing here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing if you look when you look 1 year to the next year to the next year, it seems slow, but you look over what's happened in the last 20 years, it's been an incredible amount of innovation that's happened. And it's just another round that's happening. So, the areas that we're really focusing on, one is as an ecosystem starts to form around an open marketplace, that means there's a lot of complexity involved. It's not just one hardware and software stack. There's now dozens and dozens of pieces of software and multiple virtualization layers and many hardware vendors. And, that means that customers need to pick, they need to integrate, they need to test and validate. And choice is great. It drives a tremendous amount of industry innovation, but choice also brings complexity. So one of the things that we're looking to help is how do we, at least at the infrastructure services layer, simplify the deployment of these at scale for the service providers. So, for example, one of the announcements we made last week at Mobile World Congress was around something that we call the Telecom Multi-Cloud Foundation, and that's the ability to stand up hardware and your choice of virtualization, VMware, Red Hat, Wind River. You pick the software layer you want, and we can deploy both the hardware and the software and then manage those throughout their life cycle. So it's not just deployment, but it's ongoing lifecycle management, patching, supporting that throughout its life cycle, using a simple software layer that we call bare metal orchestrator. So we can provision hardware, we can provision the virtualization layer, we can lifecycle manage the whole thing. And now service providers can deploy that not in one location, but potentially thousands or tens of thousands of locations. They can deploy open architectures across their entire core edge and RAN landscape. And that simplification really allows them to now focus on the stuff that really matters, which is the workloads and services on top, which is where they go and make their money. And so that's one key area we're looking to help. The other thing is, and another, probably the most popular thing last week at Mobile World Congress for us, was helping bring the economics of traditional RAN into the world of Open RAN. So we announced a card last week in partnership with Marvell to be able to offload about 60% of the overhead on the CPU traditionally found in Open RAN environments and move that workload onto a dedicated inline layer 1 card. What that now allows them to do is bring the performance and the price of traditional RAN into the world of Open RAN, allowing them to now deploy at scale a much more affordable environment. And that's really one of the sort of key tipping points, we believe, that's going to allow Open RAN to be more broadly adopted and expand into the telecom communities. And we're already working with multiple hardware vendors and also CSPs looking to be able to leverage these technologies.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I love how you work up and down the whole telecom stack, from working directly with CSPs through to your OEMs and their providers. And you developed a whole series of partnerships in Open RAN, helping drive this new standard forward into the real world, and doing things like design validation and interoperability. What's the last couple of years been like? It's been a busy time for you and the team at Dell.
Well, for us, it's been quite busy. I mean,
Yeah.
while Dell's been around for decades now, this business within Dell, think of it as being a well-funded startup within a big company. So
Mhm.
the telecom business here is only about 2 years old. It's really the first true vertical business inside of Dell to go and help the telecom industry drive this. So it's been standing up the team. We've been aggressively looking around the industry to augment our own legacy knowledge and traditional knowledge in infrastructure and IT and virtualization and automation, and bring in a ton of skill sets from the industry that truly can help us customize our approach to deliver the value that's really needed by service providers. So, we've grown this team to well over 1,000 people. Probably
Wow.
80% of them at least come from decades of experience in the industry. My background, as we discussed, is really in core IT, but most of my team comes out of the telecom industry. So we're bringing that knowledge and that experience to bring that strength and sort of tie that to the strengths that we bring to the game. And we've come a long way. We've now, over the last year, had a string of announcements of hardware, software, and solutions. So we're showing progress and rolling these out the door. And a lot of conversations last week with customers and partners about what our plans are in the coming months and years, and just continue to execute and deliver.
Fantastic. And you really built an ecosystem, a community of partners almost revolving around your open innovation lab, which I think is so important to prove out applications and services and scalability. Tell us more about that. Is it open? Can I go visit it today, or are you still a little
Well,
internal partners only?
there's still some there's still some COVID restrictions out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are open today. We announced this last year. So take a step back. So that foundation I talked about earlier, helping CSPs deploy hardware and virtualization layer at scale. That's sort of the first step. On top of that, we then want to create a playground or a space, an ecosystem space where both ISVs, so it's software vendors and hardware vendors and service providers can come together to test, to validate, to innovate, to be able to build solutions. And the key ingredient of this is the ability to, we're also building in a CI/CD pipeline right into the lab capabilities so that it's not just testing and validating, but it's also the ability to push into production the resulting work that they're doing, and right into our customers' environments. So the Open Telecom System Lab is a huge piece for us to really harness and anchor what we believe is going to be a very robust ecosystem for telecoms. Today, it's using labs that we already have in place across the globe. But we've also talked about that, we are building, and later this year, we will be opening a world-class lab down in Austin, Texas, or in Round Rock. We'll be starting with won't pronounce too much, but we're starting with dozens of racks, going into the hundreds of racks when it's done, to be able to really produce a very large environment where people can come into physically, but also remotely connect into that lab, be able to collaborate, and then, like I said, push into production the resulting work. So we're really excited about what we're doing with that.
Awesome. I can't wait to see some of the use cases from the lab. And you guys just had MWC in Barcelona last week. You have, I think, Dell Tech World coming up in a few weeks. So no rest for the weary, huh?
There never is. It's one thing they've learned after decades of this. You finish one, you're on to the next project. So
what are you most excited about this year as we kind of get back to some normalcy and start seeing customers and partners again?
Yeah, I love seeing people in person. There's so much you can get accomplished when you're physically in someone's presence that even just this conversation here, you can't get into the meat of those conversations really. So loved seeing people face to face. That connectivity, it just can't be replicated in these virtual worlds. So, for this year, excited to get back to whether it's Mobile World Congress, which was a huge event. I think we had almost 400 customer and partner meetings in that 4 days.
That's fantastic.
Just tremendous. Got Dell Tech World coming up, which is going to be both focused on the telecoms, but also how we're helping telecoms build and design solutions and help them get access into the enterprise accounts that they're looking to sell into through the relationships that we have in our broader business. And then over the course of the year, roll out those multi-cloud platforms that we announced. And another key area that we're innovating around, or not innovating, but really focusing on, is working with our partners to help them build and design solutions that are really helping them in the nearer term penetrate enterprise edge opportunities. So how do they bring private mobility and compute into manufacturing, into retail, into healthcare, into energy? That's one of the things they want. It's not just about network connectivity. It's about service delivery. And we're here to help them both build and design those solutions, but also through our broader connections into these enterprise accounts, help them bring those products and solutions to market. And that's a big area of conversations we're having, and excited to see where those things develop over the course of the year.
Well, good luck. I mean, you pivoted and helped so many customers and employees work from home and adapt to this new normal. So it's great to see you continue to help them with their transformational projects, and look forward to catching all the updates. So thanks so much for joining, Aaron, and we'll be watching.
All right, great. Thanks for the time. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.